Hey guys.
Hi.
Hi. How was the exam? Was it good?
No.
Was everybody successful?
No.
No?
Best ever in my life.
Okay. Yes, I'm here again with one of my closest friends again. He works with Com2uS as a game designer. He made a huge contribution to the creation of the game named Tower Defense. Have you guys ever heard of that? Yeah, that's a mobile game. That's pretty popular. That's right. And he is now a manager of multiple projects in the company. So what he's going to cover today is in relation to the project breakdown as well. He graduated from the University of California with the major of interactive media. So I think he's going to be a right person for you to refer to regarding how to lead the project in your career life. And one last comment that I have to make about him is that he's the coolest person that I've ever known in my life. So reference as well. So please welcome Mr. Cool Joe Spradley.
Yes, I'm the coolest and his bestest friend.
Sorry.
It's okay. So yeah, like Mr. Suwan has so graciously introduced me, I'm Joe Spradley, and I'm going to talk about kind of breaking down projects into simple steps. I think that might apply to, or it would have helped with exams and all that stuff too, because those are actually really big projects as well. But you're all over now, so the next project. Anyways, I graduated from the University of Southern California with the School of Cinematic Arts with a degree in interactive media. I'm a mobile game producer, so I make games for iPhones, iPads, Android devices. And now I'm a creative co-director at Com2uS, which is a big mobile games company here in Korea. Yeah. So work is complicated. We've kind of graduated into this information age where there are tons of distractions, lots of things to do, and many ways to do it. Before, back in the industrial age, your work was really just cranking widgets. You were given a pile of widgets and a crank, and you put the widget in, pull the lever, next one. You just kind of moved on day to day. Today, like building cars, you sat on the assembly line, all you had to do was screw one piece on the car, and you did it all day. You went home, maybe had a beer, and went to bed. Woke up the next day, work was very not stressful. Today, it's a little bit different, especially as educated university students. We kind of have to define our own work. We're given projects that are more like increase the viral marketing of this YouTube video. And how are you going to do that? Are you going to market it on Twitter? Are you going to create lots of videos? Are you going to spend a lot of money on marketing? There are a lot of different ways to do it, and we have to sort of figure out what the best way to do it is. So there's kind of this methodology that you can apply to these projects that break them down into very simple steps. Basically back to the widget cranking thing. So what you have to do, you think about your work, and then you just have a pile of widgets, and you just go through your day, cranking them out, and working towards this goal of the project. This is actually a YouTube video, but we don't have internet, so this was a big art installation in a movie hotel in Georgia. It was called the Nebula, and it's actually like 8 tons of bicycle reflectors all strung together, created on this interesting contraption that makes it move. It looks like a kinetic energy machine. It's really cool. It's called Creating Nebula. You can Google it. But basically, the point is that it's made up of 40,000 little bicycle things, and they just put each of them together, and it created this big, huge, amazing art installation in the thing. So basically, the 5 stages are pretty simple. It's collect, process, organize, review, and then do. So in collecting, what you want to do is gather all the things that have your attention. You want to sit down and make sure you get it all out of your head. And this can be anything from, this is project specific and just anything else, because the whole goal is to not have to think about all the stuff you have to do. So this can include, fixing your bike, or it can include gathering all those bicycle, reflectors to build a giant project. The next thing is process. So you really have to, you have all this tasks that you need to do, you go through and figure out what they mean to you and how to get them done. A lot of the stuff that you'll collect is not necessarily actionable, so you have to either put it off for later or do it right there, or delegate it. And I'll go through these steps a little bit more later. Organize the results. Basically, you just prioritize them, make sure they all have context associated with them, and delegate it to the right people. Then every week you want to review the results, make sure your priorities are still the same, and delete some stuff if you need to. Life changes, so you want to keep up to date with. You want to keep your lists all up to date. And the do is, once you have all this stuff collected, processed, organized, and reviews, you have a big long checklist of actionable stuff that you can just, when you have the time and context available, you can just do them. So a good example of a failure of this is me learning Korean. So I set a big goal to become fluent after about 6 months in Korea, and I even started before I left. Like, I was really passionate about it. I'm like, I'm gonna do it. And obviously this is not quite right, 저 한국어 배웁니다. It's okay. But I arrived in Korea almost 2 years ago. July 23rd is actually the same day that StarCraft 2 launched, which is one of the major reasons why I haven't learned Korean yet. I spent a lot of time playing StarCraft 2 instead of studying Korean. But I did put a lot of effort into it. I took classes, hired a tutor, read all kinds of blogs, even had a Korean girlfriend, but that didn't work out. And I work in a Korean office. There are people surrounding me every day speaking Korean, but I still, even after 2 years, I can't even order McDonald's on the phone. So it's kind of come a little bit of a failure, but I'm still working on it. So, and I can read and understand pretty well, but it's still nowhere I should be. Basically, the problems I ran into was I was not very deliberate about it with my practice. I tried all these different things, but it was all small steps, and I would try really hard and then kind of fail. A perfect example is Rosetta Stone. I don't know if you guys are familiar with language learning software, Rosetta Stone. I spent $400 on this high-tech software, and it was 2 whole lessons broken down into 8 different parts, and I only got to lesson 2 of the thing. And each time, pretty much just, it was boring and I wasn't into it, and so I didn't practice. I also didn't practice because there were so many other things that was trying to teach me how to learn Korean. The internet is full of page after page of the best way to learn Korean, or learn Korean in 3 months, or buy this product and try it now. So it was pretty distracting, and it's another kind of problem of our information age today. That follows on to external distractions, and then procrastination. There's tons of StarCraft to be played. Why study Korean? And one actually big one is unmeasured results. I couldn't really see my progress. I knew I was getting better and I was practicing, and I can now go into a restaurant and read the menu, but I still couldn't talk on the phone or anything like that. So measured results are a big part of it. And these all actually are solved by the process, which I'll go back more into detail now. So in collecting, I said that there's lots of opportunities, and you don't want to close yourself off to those, because sometimes that next blog article you read about learning Korean might be your key to do it. But and the way to do that is always kind of have a little collection method on hand. I have this little hand notebook, and sometimes a pen and paper is the best way to do it. And I carry this around everywhere. But you do want to make sure you're not collecting things all over the place in different places. So you want to, at most, have these 5 kind of collection buckets, and they all want to be the same thing. So if you have Notepad, you want to have one notepad that all your notes go into. Physical end basket that if you collect stuff along the way, every time you go home, you want to empty your purse or wallet into this one place that you can then take and process. Electronic note taking, I use a program called Evernote, which is pretty great. But again, you want to make sure you have a file structure that you're not saving files all over the place, because then you get all disorganized and you can't actually process it. Auditory capture, nobody really uses phone messages here, but it's basically your phone, or even if you capture audio notes. Some people like to take notes to themselves, make a quick iPhone note or something like that. And email, everybody has email, but sometimes that can get overwhelming too. So the next step, which is actually maybe one of the most important ones, is processing. So you want to first figure out what it is. Sometimes you get stuff come to your life and you don't know what it is, like take receipts, or even like this little piece of paper that has my name and contact information on it. You should all go and put this in your contact address book, but until then, it is just like a piece of paper. So you can take this and say, is it actionable? If it's not, if you don't really care who I am or what I'm saying, you just crumple it up and throw it away, which I don't want you to do it, but you can put it in the trash. Or you can incubate it. If you don't really know what I'm talking about, you just put it in your someday maybe list. Like someday I'll call that guy, so you have a list of things that you might want to do someday that you review regularly too. Or you put it in a reference thing. Like maybe you're not going to call me right away, but you might want to call me in the future, so that's when you put it in your address book. If yes, it is actionable, so say you did want to, I left my phone here and you really want to call me right away, you should either do it then, like send me an email, and I'd be eternally grateful that you returned my phone, or you can delegate it, give my phone to your group leader and she can do it, or do it later. You can go through my text messages or whatever and then give it to me later. And then the last kind of thing, a lot of the stuff is sometimes projects, which is big things requiring anything more than one step to accomplish the last action. So sometimes it is like your bike breaks down and you have to go take it to the shop. So like that's a big project that comes in your life, and you have to either call the bike shop to find out where the best place is. You have to go get a new tire, and then you have to put the tire on, and then you have to fix the brakes. So that's kind of another part of the process step. And then you want to track it. So you want to have a list of projects and reference materials. The calendar is really specific, but you don't want to put anything on your calendar that is not time specific, so hard landscape stuff. If it's not actually due that day, or it doesn't have to happen to do that day, you don't want to put it on your calendar. You want to put it in your reference or just on your action list, which is a reminder of your next actions. And then some stuff you're just waiting for. You can't actually move forward, but you want to make sure that you review it, so in case you have to tell somebody else that, hey, I need my bike back. You're waiting for the bike shop to finish your bike, so you got to go put that on the list, so you just don't one day wake up and be like, hey, where's my bike? It's like, oh yeah, it's at the bike shop. So the fourth step is organize. These are actually my projects. This is my big project list, which is maybe too many projects, but I have kind of an active project list of stuff that I'm working on now, things I'm waiting for, like voting. I want to vote in 2012, but I can't really vote now, so it's on my waiting for list, but in 2 months I'll see that and move it up to the action list. And then someday I got, a bunch of, it goes all the way off the page. So I got a bunch of projects to do, and I don't want to forget them, but I'm not actively working on them right now. So for example, learn Flash, learn a programming language is on there, and create a podcast. Some things that I want to do, but don't really have time to do them now. And then organizing individual tasks is important too. You want to create a context for them, prioritize them, delegation, so there's other people involved in creating those tasks, and then estimate time that it will take to create. So then you know if you have an extra 5 minutes sitting around, you can go to your list of tasks that only take 5 minutes and knock a few of them off. Or if you're sitting at a computer, you can do all the things that you can do at a computer, but you don't want to look at, take your bike to the store because you're sitting at a computer and you can't actually do that. So this is a great program called Zendone that allows you to sort of do all those things, organize them, and then only display the projects and the context that you're in. So I actually have a list of tools, and you can email me too if you need any of this later. And then the last thing, and really maybe the most important, is reviewing it. So every week you want to go through your lists again, go through all your tasks. It sometimes might take about 2 hours, but it's really important so that you trust your system. Because if you don't trust your system, then you won't use it, and you'll always be churning on like, oh, there's something I have to do. Oh, did I forget to do this? Whereas if you're not, you can just pull out. It's like, oh, what do I need to do? You pull out your list, and the most important thing and the highest priority, and the thing that you can do is right at the top. So in your weekly review, you want to look at all your tasks. Empty your head. Write down any new projects, action items. Review those bigger projects. Make sure each project has a next action. Sometimes during the week you crossed out that next action for the project, and you want to think, what is the next actual action I could take to move this project forward? And you want to keep that down. Most projects you'll need one next action to keep them moving forward. Some you might have 2 or 3. But then you review the next action list you're waiting for, any other checklists that you have. Someday maybe list, you might want to go back to this big list and say, oh, I have some time to learn Flash now, so I'll move that to the action list and put an action item like look for Flash tutorials online. And then review your support materials. That's usually not important, but it's on there as well. So again, the 5 stages are collecting, process, organizing, reviewing, and doing. So you do all this stuff so that you can do them 100%, in the right context, with the right energy, having enough time, and in the right priority. So if you put all this mental work and thinking process in ahead of time, you will be able to be much more productive and think clearly and devote all your energy into what you're actually doing instead of having to think about all the stuff you have to do. Some of the tools, they're specific to each person. You should try and fit it into what you do best. If you don't use email, you wouldn't have that. Or if you don't have, a smartphone, you write everything down on paper. There are ways you can create this system just based on paper. But I use pretty much, these are the things I use to keep everything straight. I have Evernote, which is a great desktop program that syncs to my iPhone. Does anybody use Evernote here? Anybody know what it is? Well, this actually is very essential. Or, I use it every day, and it's great. Highly recommend it. And it's free, also. That's another point. iPhone, my Pocket Pad, email. One important thing that I try and do every week in my weekly review is get my inbox to 0. So don't have any emails sitting in my email inbox, because then that's one thing that you're always thinking about. You're always like, oh, what am I doing? And that also allows me not to check my email every 10 minutes. Only twice a day maybe. Zendone, which is that thing I showed you before, is this guy. It allows me to sort of review and organize very efficiently and easily. And then my calendar. I just use Gmail, and I look at that every day kind of too. Just to make sure I remember, when my mom's birthday is, and what appointments I have, and all that stuff. So, in conclusion, basically, until you go through this process, you kind of have a bunch of abstract stuff that you'll never do. You might have lists and to-do lists, but every time you look at it, you'll have to think about what you want to do next. So a lot of the important things that you want to do, just gets glazed over. And basically, any daunting project can be broken down into smaller steps. You have to think about it up front, methodically, but once you do, it just turns into actions and stress-free productivity. And then doing actions get things done. So you can really accomplish these big projects Like this is what the thing I was showing you at the beginning, the big art installation. They're individually, they take it out of the box and hang it up, and they have to do it, 4,000 times. But they don't sit there thinking like, oh man, how are we going to get this up there? They actually just break down this daunting projects into smaller steps, and then take each next action one at a time. And that one little square gray dot is a lot easier than this big ass black thing. So I hope that was interesting. And this is the installation all hung up, and these are, the hotel balcony. And so it's huge, obviously, but it's pretty beautiful. But question? Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I'll take questions. Sorry if I spoke a little fast, but it's hot and I'm nervous. You guys understood?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So your PowerPoint, your presentation is in direct relation to rationalizing the process of a certain project. But how is it? I don't know. I mean, the last time, the last presentation of Peter was in relation to creativity. So how is it rationalization and creativity can come along? Because sometimes the creativity can get killed by rationalization of the process. So what do you think of that duplication of those two features?
Well, I think they can totally coexist. In order for it to work, though, you do kind of have to understand both processes. Like you have to understand that creativity needs certain things, and if you understand that, then it's just simply breaking down a project into those steps that a creative project needs. So, for example, if you're trying to create a big art installation, he took 6 months collecting all of his thoughts before he even moved on to the process and organization of it. Before this big creative project even came about, he went through all those steps. He collected his thoughts, then he processed it and like, okay, what is all this stuff I have? I have 50 different drawings and sketches. What's the best way to do this? Then once he found that way, he put it together, he organized it, he got a group of people together to help him. They actually built this thing in San Francisco and then put it on a flatbed truck and drove it all the way to Georgia. And then they assembled it there. But so he had to create, he had to organize a whole team, and then they had to review it every step of the way to make sure that like this 4-ton structure could be suspended in air. Every pretty much bolt they had to put in, they had to review it. I don't know if that really works, but and then do it. So like creative projects, they do require blocks of just creative effort. You can't always be doing this, but I would actually say by doing this, by pre-thinking about all your work, you allow your brain to stop trying to keep track of all these stuff you have to do. So it actually makes you more creative because you can fully invest in that creative effort, in those creative projects. You can sit for 2 hours and imagine all the possibilities and actually create something instead of worrying about what you're going to do.
But I think that like organizing things can be like time consuming. I don't want to sound like sexist or something, but like sometimes girls are more like organized than what you are guys. But I've seen lots of cases that like boys are more like productive in terms of doing things. They never like in my case, like for instance, like every beginning of the new year, I try to be organized, by putting down things in my diary or something. And as time goes by, I just forget to trail what I got to do or something. But instead, I remember very emergent things I've got to do and doing things, and sometimes it's gonna like get me better results. Because if you have to arrange things in your diary or something, it's gonna take lots of time.
So I agree. There are definitely pitfalls in this, in that you keep working on your system until it's right. But at a certain point, you do have to do it. And to your point about organizing versus doing, if you don't do some of this process, then you end up procrastinating, running around and fighting fires. You do work as it comes to you. You have that most urgent thing that you have to do, and a lot of times you wait till the very last minute before it really becomes a fire. And that is, to me, that is stressful, and I prefer to know the work that I have to do, and also, if I know all the work that I have to do, I can more easily take on projects, or I can tell the person, or make commitments. I find that if I use this process, I'm better at keeping my commitments, whereas if I don't, and somebody comes to me with a really cool project, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really want to do that, but if I don't know all this other work that I have to do, I could say yes, but then not be able to do that project to my full potential. Whereas if I know all this stuff, I can either say no, like, sorry, I don't have time, it sounds really cool, or I can move another one of my projects down to list. I can take it off and put it on. So I don't think that this is the only way to do it. I think there are, if you're better working in kind of a high, sometimes a high stress area is definitely better. And I can speak a little Korean too. Like I have gotten okay, but I think if I had applied this method a little bit more to learning Korean, I would have been much better. And it is a personal thing. But
like when I was learning English, I didn't really set my plan and what kind of things I'm about to do, but instead just go out and drink beer with doing my
well, that's actually one thing that I've kind of found is one of the most helpful things with learning language is going out and talking to people. So if anybody wants to talk Korean and help practice, I'm up for that. I think we are grabbing beers after this, but yeah, and for things that if you do have a very limited, or if you only have 1 or 2 or 3 big projects and you have this ability to sort of mentally process it, because actually when you do any sort of work, you are going through all these steps in your head every time. You're thinking, oh, what is this? I have to do this. Do I have time to do this? And then, okay, I'm going to do it. So this allows you to sort of do it ahead of time, and in my mind, be more productive.
It's my personal.
No, I think it's it does. Stuff gets done without it. So not everybody uses this, but I hope that I can learn Korean as much as you can speaking.
So my opinion would be very similar to him, but I think that isn't there any drawback for doing that kind of doing? I mean that for superficially it is very productive and also effective to do all kind of things, but I think that there can be a possibility to being kind of bored to doing some stuff because I think that the core kind of processes are kind of thinking kind of automatically, so it's a kind of a mechanism. So for example, making some kind of work, especially for kind of painters who are doing some other areas, except for the kind of game products like that. I think that it would be wondering to ensure the possibility of this productivity. So I mean that if there are any drawbacks involved.
Well, yeah, I would say the drawback is getting to a point where you just have too much stuff on your list. Like, I definitely think that I might have too much to do right now, and I do spend probably more time than I should on it. But at the same time, I guess creative projects and this methodology do not necessarily don't, in my mind, can mutually exist. So your example of like a painter, they still have other things to do, as in daily life. They still have to pay their taxes. They still have to walk the dog. And I think that is helpful for this methodology. And they still really want to paint. You know, they have to, if they want to create a masterpiece, you know, they still got to go to the store and buy paints. And an action list, an action item doesn't have to be, you know, paint for 20 minutes. An action item is go to the store and buy paints. But then another action item can be spend, you know, your whole day painting. And that still gets things done. Like, if you do want to do that, you put it on your list and it will get done. And you will be able to spend your whole day 100% committed to painting, rather than having to think about, oh, did I walk the dog yesterday? Or, oh man, I really got to pay those taxes. Like, I should have gotten that form. Because your top priority may be to paint, but in order to fully commit yourself to it, you have to make sure that all your other actions are taken care of too. Because if you're not ever fully committed to this creative process and creativity and painting, if you have to also think about your taxes, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And this allows you to get the form from your taxes on the list and not have to worry about it. If you trust your system, you won't ever have to think about the work that you have to do. You just have to think about the work that you're doing. Okay, anybody else?
One thing that I want to add on your answers is to the other guys is that that's one of the tests that you're going to be required to do after getting jobs. I'm pretty sure of that. You're going to be required to structure your thinking to that sort of thing after getting a job, after getting into a company. Like Samsung or LG or other Korean companies would require, the seniors there would require you to structure your thinking into that sort of frame and have some sort of like solid ideas or thoughts about the project. That's the experience that I had after having a job here. So there are a lot of other areas that sort of structured thinking is not really, economical, but then still it is pretty useful, and this is something that you have to be used to before or after getting a job. After getting a job, you will be forced to structure into that sort of.
Even if you're running your own company and you're working for yourself, you still have you arguably have more to do, and you arguably have to be able to prioritize your things correctly. And like I said, back when we just had to crank widgets, we didn't really have to really think about this process. But now, living in an information age where there are so many different ways you can do one task or do one project, it's much more beneficial to think about it ahead of time, invest a little bit of effort, and then spend the rest of your time doing it.
What's the term defense exceed?
Oh, that is a potential sequel to Tower Defense. It's on this someday list, but maybe I should have blocked that out before I came here.
And then according to information with Fuji Rocks, that's if you have a chance, just visit Pentacle Rocks Festival, which is going to in August.
Cool. I'll have to add that to it. But yeah, and feel free to contact me too. If you want some cheat codes to Tower Defense or anything like that too. Or if you have any more questions about this as well. If you want help setting up your own kind of system, I'd be more than happy to help. So, thank you, and let's go have fun again. Please teach me some Korean.
Do you have girlfriend?
No, I don't.
The best way to learn Korean is to date Korean.
I have tried. Yeah, that is very helpful.
It's not only about Korean; it's about language.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.